My name is Billy Ray, and I make movies for a living, and I have been alone with Jake Hogan, and I recommend it highly.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hi, and welcome to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. I am Jake Hogan, and you are alone with me. Thank you for being here, and thank you for writing in to dbawjk@gmail.com with all your suggestions and comments and criticisms. I really appreciate you. I would suggest to all of you who like the show, feel free to tell a friend. Yeah, sure, subscribe. Yeah, sure, like. Do that, but also tell a friend about it, because I think that if I heard a friend say that you should listen to this podcast, I'd be anxious to listen to it. So tell a friend if it's worthwhile. And if it's not, tell your friend never listen to this show. It's up to you. It's a free country. Anyway, tonight's show is going to be fascinating to me because I have my old friend Billy Ray here. Billy is a friend of mine that I've known since 7th grade, but he is a famous screenwriter. He's been Academy Award nominated and written many fabulous gazillion-dollar grossing movies, including The Hunger Games and Captain Phillips. So he knows what he's doing in the screenwriting world. But he's also a politico. He helps political candidates. He's a consultant. He helps them shape their narrative and their message because he cares about democracy and he cares about freedom and progressive ideas. And a few days ago, Joe Biden stepped down from being a candidate for president of the United States. It was an incredible selfless act. Not seen anything like it, perhaps since George Washington, who refused to become a permanent leader of the country. He said 2 terms was enough because he wanted to support the idea of democracy. Joe Biden wanted to support the idea of democracy by making sure that Donald Trump did not win. And so he put somebody who could win in his place, and that is Kamala Harris. And so we're excited to see Kamala. I went from being incredibly depressed to elated. I went from not wanting to help to wanting to knock on doors and wanting to do whatever I can to support Kamala's campaign. So if you're a big Kamala fan, you might like the show. And if you're a big Donald Trump fan, you might not like the show. So it's up to you. Feel free to write in at dbawjk at gmail.com and let me know. Don't ever do a show like this again because we MAGA people don't like it. I would love to hear from you, and I would consider it if I got a lot of those letters. Or if you think it's a good idea, write me there too at dbawjk at gmail.com. Either way, I want to hear from you. I want your questions, your comments, and I also want you to stay tuned for what is going to be a really fun and interesting discussion about what comes in the next 3 months with Kamala Harris and the Democratic nominee for the President of the United States.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
I'd like to thank you, Billy, for being here. I'm Jake Hogan, by the way. How are you? Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure. Billy and I know each other for a few years now.
7th grade.
7th grade. We were writing partners.
We were.
In 7th
I learned
grade.
comedy from you.
You haven't written a comedy since, so I don't know how well I did. Geez. But you've gotten famous for writing things that other than comedies.
Well, I've never gotten famous, but the notice I've had has definitely been for non-comedies.
Academy Award nomination? That's famous. That's fame in the world of writing. That's fame.
Okay, I'll take it.
Did you ever get a WGA?
Yeah, I did win one of those.
Okay. Right. That looks like big ovaries, right? Yeah. They're good. I like those. I have one of those. Humanitas?
No.
Okay. Well, then you suck. All right. The reason I have you here, I have lots of questions for you, but the main reason I called you a few days ago was because you're the most political, astute, and involved guy I know.
Thank you.
And it's not a compliment necessarily. You're just saying thank you to anything. There's a plant behind you. Thank you.
I want you to feel good about saying nice things about me, so you'll say more nice things about me.
I say very nice things about you. I love you. I love you. You have been my friend for many years, and I love you.
Right back. Thank you.
We don't go to Dodger games together. I don't know why, but whatever. The whole point.
Let's go.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. But you know politics. Every
Monday,
time.
August 5th, I have seats against the Phillies. You want to go?
It's my son's birthday, but if he's...
This is why I never fucking ask you, Jay.
If he tells me to fuck off, if he says, as he will, he's about to turn 23, he's not going to want to spend the day with me. So I'm going to tentatively say correct, yes.
Fantastic.
And then we'll figure it out. But the reason I asked you here was because, not because of your screenwriting ability and your directing ability.
Thank you.
And your producing ability, is that you know what's going on politically. I've been to your house and I've been to groups where you are supporting candidates. We tried to, sometimes you're the guy who's sort of helping new candidates figure out their message and figure out how to talk to people. So you consult you used your power and of narrative power of storytelling for good. And I think it's fantastic. So we had Joe Biden was running for president a few days ago.
Yeah, not that long.
And then he wasn't.
Right.
Now, I did not see what you said. You were on CNN, I don't know, a week ago.
Yeah.
I was in Houston at a barbecue restaurant, and my son points to the monitor, and it's you on CNN. And I said, okay, well, Billy's probably on there saying that Biden should step down. And I assumed that was what you were saying.
Exactly.
Okay. And so now, what was your argument then?
My argument was, I thought a lot about the first impeachment of Donald Trump.
Yep.
If you can remember those halcyon days.
Yeah.
That impeachment came about because he was so afraid of running against Joe Biden that he asked a foreign government actually to dig up dirt on Joe Biden.
Right.
That's how much he didn't want to run against Joe Biden.
Correct.
And Biden validated that by kicking his ass in 2020.
Kicking his ass.
He kicked his ass.
He squeaked in.
$5 million.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, Trump is running around saying, hey, the Democrats should get out of Joe Biden's way and let him run his race.
Right.
He couldn't wait to run against Joe Biden.
Right.
Because he was seeing the same numbers everyone else was. In sports, you find out what your opponent wants to do and you take it away from them. If they like fastballs, you throw them curveballs, right? If they're in football, if they're a passing team, you make them run.
Right.
Okay, if that guy was saying to us, I can't wait to run against Joe Biden, we had to take that seriously. We had to listen to that.
Right.
And we did.
The evidence that Trump would beat Joe Biden was not so clear to certainly to Joe Biden. He didn't seem to understand how really horrifying that debate was.
That was the issue. But my feeling about it, and this is what I said on CNN, for 3 years, 85% of Americans have been telling us they don't want a choice between Trump and Biden. Okay?
And they've been saying it's his age. We're worried about his age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Republican Party has now officially said, fuck you. We're giving you the candidate we've given you for the third time.
Right.
Okay? Have a bite. The Democratic Party, it seemed to me, had an opportunity, a moment of opportunity to say, we're the party that listens. We've heard you. You don't want this choice. We're not going to give you this choice. We're going to give you something else. We're going to give you something new. And I said, I believe the voters will reward us for being bold. And I think that's happening right now.
Well, certainly the euphoria of not having what was clearly a compromised Joe Biden
Right.
at the top of the ticket is fantastic, because having a compromised Joe Biden, having regular Joe Biden of 4 years ago wasn't bad.
No.
It was fine. But this guy, the current Joe Biden, was not able to defend himself, was
Right.
not able to prosecute Trump,
Nope.
was not able to do a lot of things. And it was very disheartening. To have him write that email, I think everything happened so well. He wrote a note and said, I'm stepping down. There's no video of him doing it, which
Right.
is fantastic. So smart. It's just a note, and said, I'm stepping down. Then another note followed with another note saying, and I support Kamala Harris.
Right.
Brilliant.
Great.
And now, and I know he's got COVID or whatever, but I just think that's a smart way to do it anyway, because you don't want to give them a piece of film on Joe. All the film should be about Kamala. And now it is.
That's
and
correct.
it's great. And fundraising for her, $100 million in 24 hours, fantastic.
Fantastic.
That we have this excitement. Now, let's talk about what we need to do to actually make that a reality, to make Kamala actually beat Trump, because I think
Sure.
right now it's probably still a 50-50 race.
Here's what I would say about that. Trump has a very real and a very low ceiling, and he's hit it, right? You can't do better than having that debate have your opponent step in it in that way, and then to almost be assassinated and survive.
Right.
Like, you can't script that any better. That got him to his high watermark. He's got nowhere to go but down. J.D. Vance is already tugging him in that direction. No one out there is waiting to make up their mind about Donald Trump. Like, everybody has an opinion about Donald Trump.
Right.
But 22% of Americans have no opinion of Kamala Harris, which means she's got a lot of room to grow. She can convert a lot of people out there who do not have a hard and fast opinion of her. So start with that as a base. She's just got more room to grow than he does.
But is she saddled with being part of an administration that in some ways people are not happy with, in terms of the economy, maybe in terms of the Middle East, maybe in terms of there's certain things, the immigration question, there's certain things that Trump has weaponized that seem to be working, at least poll-wise, to a lot of people.
Okay, let's separate one of those out, which is immigration. Okay, where the Biden administration just hasn't been as effective as they needed to be. That's a fair comment. We're going to have to deal with it. My thing is you counterbalance that with some really strong messaging, which is not that hard to come up with. Like, it's actually kind of easy to talk immigration.
Talk to me about immigration, because I've heard her say, I've heard everybody say, we had a bill and Trump killed it. The immigration right now at the border is very low, actually. In this moment in time, immigration has gone down. All those things don't seem to be sort of bouncing off the walls. Right. They're not hitting.
So let's get down to some really basic stuff. What makes a person a conservative? What makes a person a liberal? They actually have different brains.
Right.
Okay. If you gave 1,000 Americans the same personality trait test, conservatives would score differently on it than liberals do. Okay. Our brains are literally wired differently. What makes a conservative on a psychological level, on a voting behavior level, what binds them together politically, is their shared fear of chaos. That's underneath every ad run by every Republican in our lifetime. Okay. The Willie Horton ad that killed Michael Dukakis, aside from being racist, also said, if you vote for Michael Dukakis, a convicted felon on furlough is going to come murder your family, right? Democrats are soft on crime, chaos. Then after 9/11, Democrats are soft on terror, chaos. Right. Now it's Democrats are for open borders, Democrats are for burning cities, Democrats want to defund the police, Democrats don't care if your son becomes your daughter, chaos, chaos, chaos. If you give a conservative the choice between authoritarianism and what they perceive to be chaos, they'll pick authoritarianism.
They are.
They're doing it right in front
They're
of us.
picking it. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So the border issue is sort of the ultimate chaos issue. It's why Republicans love to talk about it so much, because it's, oh my God, we don't have a border. It's crazy out there. Go ask any American who is screaming about the border, sit them down and say, tell me how it affects your life. Right. There's no answer. Okay?
They'll make something up.
They'll make something up about
jobs, crime and jobs.
Some bullshit.
Right.
They say, no, tell me, how does it affect you?
Right.
Other than the fact that the price of everything is lower because labor is cheap.
They're taking up money in the emergency rooms, and I'm paying for the damn
from you.
Oh yeah, I pay all my taxes.
No, you were in an emergency room and you had to wait because there were undocumented.
I had to wait in an emergency room. I assume it was illegal aliens taking my spot.
You assume?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so in other words, if you push them, they can't point to a way in which undocumented workers have in any way impacted them. They can't. But forgetting that, if I'm Vice President Harris, I would say, look, this is an issue on which the former president and I agree completely. You can't have a country if you don't have borders. Of course, border security is so important. And that's why in our bill, we had more money for drones, more money for border patrol agents. We had Israeli anti-tunneling technology. That bill didn't make it. You can ask Donald Trump why. Donald Trump's remedy is a wall. Okay, you show me a 20-foot wall, I'll show you a 21-foot ladder. Right. But that's a policy difference. It's not a goal difference. We both want to secure the borders. That's what I would say if I were her.
That's pretty good. Now, Kamala also...
Kamala,
like Mamala.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just
Kamala.
Kama.
Yeah, but Kamala.
Right.
Yeah. Kamala, I've had trouble for years ever since she was a senator. I'm going to get it right.
My faith in you is total.
All right. So Kamala
Yeah.
has had her own issues, not with pronunciation of her name, but with how she conducted her campaign for president of the United States the last time before she was picked to be vice president. And she has made some mistakes. Do we think that she's learned from those mistakes? She seems so comfortable now. She seems so legit now. I'm so impressed with the past couple of days. I'm like riding high. I'm afraid that I'm so happy that the shoe is going to drop, that something's going to happen.
Look, all campaigns have hard days.
Yeah.
Right? She hasn't faced it yet, but there's a reason that the president picked her.
Right.
Right? And she's an enormously impressive woman. She was a district attorney.
Right.
She was the attorney general of the biggest state in the union. She was a United States senator, and she was a vice president. She's more qualified for the job than Donald Trump is, who actually served.
Right. No,
and it's not close.
I completely agree, because she's actually, say, she would read a policy paper. That would be one thing.
That would be one thing.
And she would take advice from experts about something.
She also gives us an issue that is spectacular for us, which is age.
Yeah.
And infirmity.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now they've got to defend their guy who's wearing diapers and doesn't make sense. You want to talk about age?
Of course.
Great. Let's do it.
Isn't it great to be able to talk about that now? Because we were all clamming up.
Oh, yeah.
In a big way.
Age is just a number. Age doesn't matter.
Now we can talk about age being a factor.
Open up all the barrels.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
You talk to people on the Democratic Party because you help candidates. Are people, down ballot people who are running right now, like John Tester and all the, filled with new life?
So excited.
Yeah.
So excited. And you know, the night of the debate, I called a member of Congress and I said, is this recoverable? And he said, no.
Yeah.
Like they knew it that night.
I knew it.
That night.
Not only that night, the walkout to the podium. I started screaming, and Brown was saying, what's wrong? What's wrong? We lost. We lost. Look at him. This was supposed to be the moment where he says, I'm virile and I'm strong and I can take on. And he's walking like a puppet to the podium, and I'm not sure he's going to make it. Like, that was a nightmare. And then to go on to be incoherent and mumble and terrible. It's awful.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, down ballot, everybody is very excited and finally feeling like they can run their race. And you know, I try to help a lot of them with messaging, sitting members of Congress and new candidates in this cycle. And they were having to run away from Biden.
Right.
Which is staggering, because I don't think there's ever been a larger gap between someone's performance and the public's perception of that performance.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. It's had such a great run, but I think it's actually tells you that projection and image is so much of the story now.
Yes.
It's so much of what people, because the people get lost in the weeds. They don't care about, the infrastructure bill or the CHIPS Act. They just think he's falling, he's stumbling, he's going the wrong way.
Well, there's this other thing, and it goes back to what I was saying about immigration. Like, okay, you're upset about immigration. How's it affecting you? Right. And they can't come up with an answer. The vast majority of Americans, think they're economically in better shape than they were 4 years ago. And if you ask those same Americans, are we as a nation in better shape?
Right.
They'll say no.
Right.
Because they've been told over and over by Fox or OAN or Newsmax that everything's a fucking mess.
Right.
And their own individual experience is contrary to that.
And that crime is high when it's low. And that, all of that stuff.
All that stuff.
It's crazy how manipulatable we all are. And it's also the fact that there's no guiding truth anymore. There's no canon that people lean on anymore. It's now their bubble is telling them what the truth is.
Well, I would argue that people pick news that agrees with them.
I mean, I listen to Tucker Carlson, but I mean, other than Tucker, there's no one truth teller that I can really count on. And I have to believe, as just a humanist, that people don't think they're evil. They think they are not working for greed. But I can't see any other explanation.
Well, I can give you one.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
money.
all right, let's take January 6th.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think anybody woke up that morning thinking, I'm going to hurt my country today. I think everybody on both sides said, I'm going to support my country today. I'm going to save my country today.
Right.
So I would ask you as an Obama fan, which I was, and I know you were.
Yep. I
If
just found out he was black. And that was, had I known, I don't know.
if in 2012,
Yeah.
that election against Mitt Romney had gone the other way, and Obama, while still in office, said to his supporters, they stole it.
Right.
They got a hold of voting machines and they stole it. I won. I can't prove it, but I won. Well, I know a lot of Democrats who would have been pretty upset about that.
Sure.
Would they have gone and tried to break into the Capitol? Hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you for sure is they would have, whatever they did, they would have thought they were saving their country.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that Ashley Babbitt and all the rest truly believed an election had been stolen
I do believe that.
and truly believed they were saving their country and saving democracy.
Yeah. And that they had permission kind of to be there from the top of the government.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. In the locker room of the United States Capitol Police, USCP, that morning, if you would have walked into where they all dressed, all those cops, you would have found basically apartheid, okay? A bunch of white, bald cops watching Fox, and all the African-American cops watching ESPN. Literally, the room was divided, okay? And you had USCP cops who were wearing Trump t-shirts
Right.
under their uniforms, okay? And a lot of shit given back and forth from both those guys. But when those rioters came, those Trump cops fought the hardest against those rioters. Like they drew a line, which is no. You can yell, you can scream, you can claim whatever you want to claim. You can't come in this building, right?
Right. Well, I mean, if I was truly a Trump a policeman and thinking that these other people stole the election, I'm not sure I would have done that.
Okay, that's what the rioters were counting on. And when the rioters came out, the recurring claim was the cops fought us. They couldn't believe the cops had been part of the resistance.
Right.
Because the key part of their plan was that like-minded cops would help them. I mean, what was that whole thing about? The whole thing was about that the Oath Keepers, the Virginia Oath Keepers, they had this huge cache of weapons
Right.
on the other side of the Potomac,
Right. Waiting
sitting in a
ready.
motel room.
Yeah.
Okay. They were waiting for the Colorado Oath Keepers to secure the building. Then they were going to have Trump deputize all of them.
Right.
They were going to bring their weapons over and they were just going to hold the Capitol
Yeah.
for weeks, months, whatever it took. That was the plan. We look back on that now and we say, okay, that's insane. That's illegal.
Right.
That's treason.
Yeah.
That's not what they thought. They believed they were saving their country.
Okay.
So,
But
so let me ask you, okay, so circling all this back, do I believe that the average Trump voter wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to fuck over my country today? Ted Cruz, J.D. Vance, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert,
Right.
Trump,
Right.
go through that list. Okay,
Are they all con men?
Here's what I think.
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know these people,
Right.
but here's what I think. I think they actually do believe that liberals represent a threat to a power structure that they believe in, which has to do with white Christian nationalism. I think they think that white Christian nationalism is a legitimate political force that can keep this country on a God-fearing path. Right. I think they believe that. And I think they believe...
think it's a rightful part of the history of this country.
And they think it's righteous.
Yeah.
Okay. And they also believe that anything they have to do in order to protect that power structure is morally defensible. Well, they're wrong.
So whatever, no matter what lie you have to tell,
Doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Like JD Vance knows JD Vance is full of shit.
Hold on a second. I have something to give you.
Oh, it's exciting.
I've taken a giving guests gifts. This is Pure Delicious Simply Cheetos Cheese Puffs, baked cheese puffs, white cheddar.
Amazing.
These are for people who actually hate Cheetos and just want baked Cheetos with the white cheddar.
I appreciate it.
Okay, there you go. That's for you.
Thank you.
Gratis.
I'm not going to eat them on the air.
No, you don't have to. That's for you. And you don't have to. You can give them away. If you want to re-gift the Cheetos, that's fine too. If you want to send them to your kids, whatever. How are your kids?
They're okay.
Fantastic.
You. And that
Love your
seems
kids.
like a nice gift for a party.
It could be a nice gift for a
Like
party.
anyone can walk in with a bottle of wine.
Yeah, no, but
Who's coming in with baked Cheetos?
Nobody. Because nobody has the class that I do. That's why.
It's because you were south of the boulevard.
So what can I do to put us over the top? What is just me, Jake Hogan? I gave money. I gave some money.
There's a lot you can do.
But what else could I do?
Okay, first of all, you can write.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
You can contribute material to the campaign. You can organize.
What kind of, just send them jokes? Like, here are jokes?
Why do they have to be jokes?
That's mostly what I write. But what do they need? Like, what is a campaign? If I were to write something, what would a policy statement? What?
If you thought up something you thought was a great bumper sticker.
Yeah.
You're telling me you couldn't get that to the campaign through people like me?
Sure. I could, yeah.
So you can do that.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we know you can write checks. We know you can write.
My first thought was hard for Harris. And then people said there's a double meaning for it that makes it difficult for it, and then that would be bad. So I don't know. But I'm going to keep thinking.
You can go to Arizona.
Yeah.
You can go to Nevada and knock on doors.
Yeah.
That's not far.
Right.
And those are both states I think we can and should win. You can go to Michigan.
Is door knocking campaign still effective as it used to be? Like I'm told lately, because I did door knocking with Swing Left and all that, but that phone banking is sometimes even more effective
Than phone bank or do postcarding.
Yeah.
Postcarding is very effective.
Yeah.
Like you get together with 30 friends, right? And everyone writes 20 postcards to a given district, a key swing district in a state. Do that a couple times, you're reaching a couple thousand people.
Right.
So you can do that.
Yeah.
What I can tell you for me, this whole thing started for me. I grew up in a very political house, but I was never more than a check writing Democrat. That's,
right.
If someone really inspired me like Bill Clinton or Obama, I would do a little bit more, but not a lot more.
Right.
Then the election of Trump came and just flattened me. I mean, I was destroyed. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I cried every day for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I was terrified for my country.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm never going to wake up again the morning after an election thinking I could have done more. So I just dove in a different way.
Do you think the Hillary Clinton election could have been won?
Of course.
Don't you think that maybe Hillary was not a great candidate? And
The worst candidate of all time.
And I don't know if you know much about James Comey. Do you know anything about that, James Comey?
I figured too.
All right, yeah. Because Billy wrote a movie, a
miniseries, wrote and directed.
about Comey.
The Comey Rule.
And you met with Comey several times.
I know him well.
Yeah. So like his choices, I think
Didn't help?
did not help.
Here's a few things about Secretary Clinton, who I think would have been a great president.
Yeah, I do too.
And would have knocked the crap out of COVID.
Yeah.
Like just on sheer wonkiness alone, she would have been phenomenal as commander in chief. She doesn't really have tremendous gifts as a politician, to me,
Right.
as a campaigner.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was also a campaign that had some fundamental flaws in it. For example, aside from not going to Wisconsin, in Michigan, the lawn signs, the Hillary lawn signs, they were charging $10 a pop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just pathologically dumb.
Right.
Okay. She had to deal with Comey. She had to follow the first black president in United States history in a country that's fundamentally racist.
Right.
Right? There are people out there that will never forgive us for electing a black president.
Course.
But the determinative variable in that election was the Russians. And and I did, as I was doing the research for the Comey Rule, I spoke to the director of the CIA,
Right.
who said to me, the key factor in Donald Trump's election was the Russians.
Right.
That's a guy who would know.
Right.
Okay.
I believe that there was obviously Russian interference and there's
collusion massively.
Well, this is the problem. Like is it if the Russians saw it in their interest to support Donald Trump and do and put out propaganda and tweets and things and bots in their name, that doesn't need collusion. They don't need collusion to be effective in changing things.
No, but they had their guy, Manafort, running the campaign and changing the actual policy of the Republican Party.
The platform. They removed the platform, pieces of the platform that Russia didn't like, and then about Ukraine, about supporting Ukraine and other things. They literally removed it.
Correct.
And Trump didn't care. So now when we were kids, and I've said this before to other people, I thought you were going to run for president.
So did I.
I thought you were going to be president of the United States. Where'd you go wrong, Bill?
This is where I went right.
Okay.
Okay. My plan when I was a kid was to be the first Jewish president. And then, as you'll recall,
My plan was to be the first Jewish first man. And that Doug fucking Imhoff. Emhoff? I don't know. Kamala, Imhoff, Emhoff. The point is, he beat me to it.
Okay. So I, as you will recall, ran for president of Portola Junior High.
Yes.
And won.
Okay.
Okay. And it showed me the seamy underside of politics.
Right. Well.
And I remember I was president of the student body and I was thinking, I can't actually get anything done.
No.
Like, this sucks.
Because it's kind of a figurehead position.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it turned me off of politics.
Yeah.
And I decided I wasn't interested in the deceit and the dishonesty of that business. So I went into show business instead.
Okay, good. I always like those campaigns where a junior high school presidents like, I'm going to get us more holidays and I'm going to change more pizza days, like things they couldn't possibly deliver on.
No, I actually ran on more suggestion boxes.
Yeah, okay.
And I couldn't deliver that either.
No, you couldn't? There's a rule against suggestion boxes?
Maybe I was just a spectacularly ineffective president.
God.
I could have been the Millard Fillmore of Portola Junior High.
Could be.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Do you think, I think part of what people who vote for Donald Trump, part of their makeup, not just the fear of chaos, is they believe the system is already so corrupt. What does it matter if there's a crook at the top? Let it be our crook at the top. That democracy is already a matter of people, that bribes, that millionaires have already ruined the system, and that the people, everybody's out for themselves. Nobody's there for the good of the people in public policy, which I actually don't believe. I believe that there are people, I've seen it, people who actually care about
Absolutely.
the world, care about the country, care about education, care about the earth, care about our air, care about our children. I don't think it's all gone, but I think a huge portion of Trump base believes whatever.
Okay, so let's separate these two things out. Here are the two things. One, if you do a study of the people who were actually arrested for their actions on January 6th.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Oh, not now?
No, not now.
Okay.
I think the number wound up being 1,200 people, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know some of them.
The vast majority of them, like a stunning number, came from counties in which white people, as a percentage of the population of that county, were dropping. Okay? There's this county just north of Dallas that had a disproportionate number of rioters come from there. In that county, whites as a percentage of the population dropped by 5.3% in 4 years. That's a stunning demographic drop, okay? These were people who thought Trump was vile and childish, but they knew he cared about their whiteness.
That's true.
And so they would throw their AR-15s in the trunk and drive to DC from Dallas and sleep in the car because they had no money. But they were going to go defend their whiteness. They were going to go defend the guy who cared about their whiteness. And I think that's at the core of so much of it. It's about tribalism. Now, separate that out from something that's actually real that we need to deal with. That right now in America, 62% of Americans believe that if they make enough noise, they can make a corporation pay attention to them as a consumer. Okay, 62%. 4% of Americans believe that if they make enough noise, they can make their government pay attention to them as a citizen.
Right.
4%, which means 96% do not.
Correct.
Okay? People feel they don't matter. They feel their voices are not being heard. And so when Trump ran in 2016, his most effective campaign line by far was "I will be your voice." That's the one that spiked.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lie.
Yeah.
But it said, "You're not a vote to me.
Right.
You matter to me."
Right. And
People need to be told they matter.
And recently he said, "You don't matter to me. I just want your vote."
Yes.
He said that out loud too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm not terribly worried about him now that he's not running against President Biden. He has totally forgotten what made him succeed in the first place. My fear about Trump when he first took office was that he was going to be, evil, corrupt, and effective.
Right.
He wound up being evil, corrupt, and inept.
Yeah.
Which was lucky. He just didn't understand how the levers of power actually worked.
Not
he didn't
at all.
really understand it and wasn't that interested in how government actually
He thought
worked.
it was a show.
Right.
He just thought it was a show. And if I look like a president and have flags and bands and parades, then I'm president.
Right.
It's like that was it. And
So-
tax cuts for his buddies. There's that.
Right. So the argument that I always made or encouraged the candidates I worked with to make in 2018, in 2020, was to go to conservative voters and say, look, I get what was fun and funny about Donald Trump in 2016. I get it. You didn't feel seen or heard by your government. And here came this guy saying, I'm going to blow the government up. I get why that was appealing.
Right.
But he did. He actually did it.
Yeah.
And the result was chaos.
Yeah.
Like, part of what we have to do as Democrats is rebrand what chaos means. Chaos is January 6th. Chaos is people showing up at a polling place with AR-15s. When there are 30 cars backed up in a rural hospital parking lot because the president has no answer for COVID, that's chaos.
Agreed.
All we want to do is govern
Right.
effectively and robustly.
Right. No, I mean, I want to help. I talk with people all the time. I do it on the internets, and I'm not combative ever with people who are on the right or Trumpers. I ask them a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I said, what do you want out of your future? Why do you think your guy is going to help you? And what's the best way for this country to move forward? And it's never a confrontation. It's always just questions. So as I'm trying to figure out why my perspective and their perspective are so different. And I don't get solid answers about why, other than some people have given up, and some people don't think that the dream of America is worth fighting for, and some people don't believe the Constitution and the words of the preamble, and they're not the Declaration of Independence. They're not on board with it. They think it's just showbiz.
It might take us a generation to undo the damage that Trump did to the body politic, to our core
But is it the
beliefs.
damage that Trump did, or was he just tapping into something?
Oh no, he was always the symptom, not the problem.
Right.
But once he gained power,
Yeah.
he was a wrecking ball
Right.
to civics.
Because if he loses, and I hope he will lose this next election, I don't think that he's going to be a player so much. He's not going to be a candidate for sure
he will not.
for any kind, but he'll be a voice, a loud, ugly voice in all of this. But there's J.D. Vance following behind him and many other people who'd love to take his place.
Yeah, okay, great. You heard from Dan Quayle lately?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit what J.D. Vance wants to do?
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm saying there's somebody's going to be running for president in 2020.
Yeah,
28.
my fear is it'll be Tom Cotton
Yeah.
or Josh Hawley or one of those knuckleheads
Yeah.
who actually is smart
Yeah.
and and maniacal, they scare me more than Trump.
Yeah.
Because if those fuckers ever got power, they actually know how things work.
I agree. But I would say that that I think J.D. Vance is probably pretty smart too somewhere. He's not very charismatic, but he's smart.
You've obviously never seen Hillbilly Elegy.
I did. I can't blame him for Ron Howard's work.
Ron Howard's a great guy.
I understand.
Ron Howard's a great director.
I love Ron Howard.
Nobody could save that fucking train wreck.
Okay.
Nobody. Get off Ron Howard.
All right. I'll back off.
Man made Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Okay. Give him that script.
Yeah.
He makes Apollo 13.
I
Give him
understand.
Hillbilly Elegy. He makes Hillbilly Elegy.
I love Ron Howard. I just think that J.D. Vance is not that movie. He's somebody probably smarter and a little bit more conniving than that guy, than the character.
Yeah, I think that movie, did it start as a play or a book?
A book.
Sorry. Okay, so that book somehow gave him cover and legitimacy.
Yeah, he has a good origin story.
Yeah, to be consulted in the world of ideas.
Yeah.
And he doesn't actually have any.
All right. We're running out of time because some of us have to leave at 7.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go to question time.
It's question time.
Okay, but we don't have any questions because we just put this together really quickly. So now we'll go to listener mail.
Now it's time for listener mail.
Dear Jay and guest,
Uh-huh.
you're the guest.
Mhm.
All right. I try, but maybe I'm just okay. How do you know if you are doing a good job? Signed, Sarah.
Well, it's hard for me to know in a vacuum what Sarah does for a living.
But we do. We're writers.
Yeah.
And sometimes we turn in a draft and we think it's good, or maybe we don't know if it's good. And then we say like, should I rework it? Should I not work it? Where do I stop? How do you know it's good?
I'm extremely outer directed in that way. I hope it's good. I believe it's when it gets to the place where I think it's working,
Right.
I hand it in and I decide whether or not it's good based on the reactions that it gets. I mean, I echolocate. I send out radar and it pings back.
Right.
And it tells me whether or not it is doing what I intended it to do. I mean, the only thing I can say about our job is I evaluate work based on what it thinks it is.
Meaning?
If it's trying to be scary,
Yeah.
is it scary?
Okay.
If it's trying to be funny, is it funny?
Right.
Right? That's the bar you set for yourself as the writer.
Right.
And so you have to give it to people to find those things out.
Right. But
Now Sarah may be a waitress.
Right.
She may make candles. I don't know what she does.
she's a pediatric neurologist. So I really hope, Sarah, you figure out whether
then-
you're doing a good job.
Results are everything.
Yeah, exactly. She's
result-
never had a patient live. So Sarah, back to the drawing board. No, I don't know. I mean, it's true that so much of this is subjective. What a good job. Everybody does a job. You can do a job. I think people think they're doing a good job sometimes when they're not doing a good job.
Yes, that's
and
true.
other people think they're doing a terrible job when they're doing a fine job. You turn in a script.
Yes.
You don't hear from anybody for 3 weeks.
Never happened to me.
Okay. But if you didn't, you'd know there's trouble.
Of course.
So what's the level? How much time can go by without you thinking, oh shit?
It's really simple.
Yeah.
I hand it in on, let's say I handed it on a Friday.
Right.
Okay. And I announce to everybody, if I have not heard from you by Monday at noon, I will assume you hate it.
Right.
If that's what you want me to assume,
Right.
don't reach out.
Right.
Well, of course they're going to reach out.
Right.
Because I'm at my best when I'm dealing with information. I'm at my worst when I'm operating in a vacuum. Don't put me in the fucking vacuum.
Right.
Tell me how we're doing.
I've never made that demand on anybody.
They're totally allowed to reach out on Sunday and say, kids, the kids got sick.
Right.
I couldn't get to it this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Just don't leave me in the vacuum.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously that's happened to Sarah.
It's true. She doesn't know. Or that she doesn't believe what people are telling her.
That's possible, too.
I'm not sure. Now it's time for a moment of joy.
Okay.
A moment of joy.
Something that gives you joy. Just whether it's something that you do every day or something you do once a year, but it can enthuse you and bring you back to something, a good feeling?
Watching JFK.
Okay.
Or a truly great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Watching Amadeus, watching
Right.
The Godfather, is just joy.
Yeah.
Just sort of awe at how good the storytelling is and the execution on every
Craft
level.
of it, yes.
The craft of it. Every once in a while, nature.
Okay. Do you hike? Do you walk through the
I do.
the mountains? Okay.
I do. And I have to say, when you work or volunteer for institutions like the Writers Guild,
Mm-hmm.
or when you mentor people,
Right.
or when you try to get candidates across the finish line, by definition, you're surrounding yourself with people who care,
Yeah.
who are in it for the right reasons. They don't want to get paid.
I should do that. I volunteer mostly for banks. And I feel like they appreciate it. They do appreciate it. But I don't get the same satisfaction.
Some of the best friends I have are people who are in the work,
Yeah.
and a shared laugh with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's joy.
That's good. That's good. Well, Bill, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here and for informing our audience of your particular expertise.
Thank you.
I think you have a lot to say, and I think you have, I count on you and people like you to enlist people like me to help, because we all have to help. We have to find a way to help.
Here's the thing. The next 3.5 months of my life are about saving this country from Trumpism.
Right.
Whatever I have to do. If that campaign wanted me to move to DC, I'd move to DC.
Right.
If Mark Kelly were the nominee for VP and he said, hey, move to Phoenix, work with me, I would do it. Whatever I have to do to save this country from MAGA,
Right.
that's the next 3.5 months. And so I'm going to enlist the help of my friends and colleagues to give everything they can. And that means cancel vacations. It means put it all on the line. And you can go on a vacation November 6th.
So thank you for being here, and thank you for being here. I appreciate when I'm with a good old friend, and you should be with friends too. So don't be alone, and I'll see you next time.
Don't be alone with Jay.